when you look at a problem, say, I want to think about this as an investor.
Yeah.
And really the sort of magic happens there because to me it is a different way of thinking.
Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larsen. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's show, we have Dr. Ryan Smolarz. Dr. Smolarz is an MD, MBA. He's a surgeon turned entrepreneur, investor, and he's a thought leader in healthcare, real estate, and innovation. He's the founder of Beehive Homes Assisted Living, Smell Again, and Store Partners. He also serves as a blockchain lead for Store Token. With multiple patents, over $30 million in assets under management, Dr. Smolarz blends medical expertise with business acumen to drive impact across industries. And today, he's going to share his framework about how you can do the same thing. He also is the author of an upcoming book, Heal Thy Wallet, that we're going to talk a little bit about today, and hosts the Medicine and Money Show. Dr. Smolarz, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. A lot of our listeners, a lot of our audience have backgrounds in the medical space as well, like yourself, and I'm excited for our conversation today. But before I jump in here, the audience heard your intro, but I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your background. Are you still practicing? What do you have going on today?
Yeah, so this is my admin day and Stack podcast. We have 5 different ones today.
All right.
So yeah, my week is usually full time as a surgeon, ear, nose, and throat, and we have a bunch of different projects going that my wife thinks I'm out of my mind about, but it scratches an itch that for a long time that I couldn't. There was just something missing in my life, and became very obvious entrepreneurship and business was what was missing. And so yeah, that takes up a lot of time, but how to spend time with kids and the dog and the wife and all those sorts of things as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. And that was one of the cool things I always enjoyed being in the medical device space. You had kind of a dichotomy. I found you found surgeons that were really entrepreneurial, and you almost had to be an entrepreneur 50 years ago to be a doctor, to be a surgeon, and that shifted a lot. I saw that shift during my career, where surgeons became and physicians in general became more and more employed, and the new ones that were coming in had more of an employee mindset. And that's why I'm excited to have you share a little bit about your framework that you've built for doctors that I think a lot of investors that are listening here today can apply to them. But any thoughts on that, that shift between, from entrepreneur to employee, and how that's affected the industry as a whole?
Yeah, so I was the same when I was growing up. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon,
Yeah.
and I saw it as well. Most of them were self-employed, and then that shift happened to more, employee-based doctor stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that what happened was right now, in particular, is there are a lot of people out there like me that just have an itch that they can't scratch. And the problem is they don't know what that itch is. And so um, I feel obligated to say, hey, it may not be this, but it also may be. And if you choose, if that's what it is, there is a very clear path to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. No, I love it. And that's one of the things that I think applies not just to physicians like yourself, but also, professionals, that are out there. They're like, hey, we got a lot of coaching clients. They've been at their career for a couple decades. They're humming, they're making great money, but they're like, well, what, like, is this it? What else do I do? Am I going to retire in 10 years? Like, I think I want to retire, but what am I going to do? And, our goal at Next Level Income is to give investors the education and the opportunities to give them that freedom to decide, hey, if your itch is to not miss your son's lacrosse game, or start on your own venture and go out and have the freedom and flexibility to do that, I think that, hey, if you have financial freedom, then you can go out and do whatever it is God put you here to do and really achieve your full potential that's out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're banging the same drum and have to
Yeah.
be kindred spirits. To me, I totally agree with that. Being grounded in your finance and
Yeah.
understanding that world, and it allows you to take the straitjacket off, right? Like
That's a great
for
analogy. Yeah.
yeah, I just felt so constrained. I felt like the walls were closing in on
Hmm.
me, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, what is this that's got me gripped? Where I just I've got so much anxiety, and that's what it was. Is like
Hmm.
after 7 years out in practice, like sort of figured it out, and then I'm like, all right, well, is that it? No, like I've got
Yeah.
so much more to do.
Yeah.
And oh man, when once I figured it out, hit the ground running, and it's been a wild ride ever since,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Yeah. So you got your hands in a lot of different things, Ryan. But what was that first step you took kind of outside of medicine, to start to scratch that metaphorical itch?
Yeah, so I can tell you the day and time it happened. I was exercising with my friends and we were surfing. There was no surf, so we were
Beautiful.
all kind of down talking
Yeah.
and paddling around. And I looked at one of my buddies and I said, "You know what? I don't even know where I bank. I don't know. I don't even know which bank our money's in. I have zero idea of any of that. We're about to start a family and I'm scared. I'm
Mm,
really terrified about being able to be the provider for my family."
mm.
And I said, I think I'm going to go to business school. And there was a big, long, silent pause. Uh, Ryan, you're a doctor. What are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
that's not normal thought process. 6 weeks later, I was sitting in business school in Miami, and I looked around and I said, "My friends are right. Like, there, there are 30 people in this room, and one just doesn't belong." And um,
Who was
I
that? No, I'm just kidding.
realized, I realized very quickly that I was out of my element.
Hmm.
But the third day, the instructor was talking about marketing, and this light bulb went off, and it was every commercial that's out there in existence is directed at me
Hmm.
because I'm always looking for the next car, the
Yeah.
watch, or whatever it was on my mind. And I realized that I don't want that to be in my headspace. I want to be solving world problems,
Yes.
and I want to switch my mindset from consumer to investor.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I can't tell you how fulfilled and satisfied my life's been. It's been
Yeah.
wild and crazy, but at the same time, it filled that void.
Yeah. That's a great point. I wrote about that in my book where, I remember reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and Robert this was geez. And I got my copy actually from Robert Kiyosaki. Um, but I guess it was about 25 years ago at this point. It had just come
Wow.
out and somebody was like, "Hey, I was reading book after book and somebody's like, "Hey, you should read this book if you're looking for something." I was like, "This purple book, interesting." And but Kiyosaki said, "You need to think like an investor." He said that's kind of like the pinnacle. Um, and his message spoke to me too because he was a sales guy that was in real estate, and I was like, oh, I'm just getting my start here. So, um, yeah, so I love that. I love that philosophy. Thinking like an investor, which is really it's an allocation of resources. Your time. How do you best allocate your time? How do you best allocate your money? It affects every choice that you do. I advocate. My boys are 13 and 15. And people are like, well, what are you doing for college? I'm like, well, the first thing I'm going to do is teach them how to calculate the return on investment, the ROI of their college education. So they're not just, walking blindly into this. And you've
Absolutely.
built a whole framework around this, your Liftoff Now framework. I'd love you to kind of walk through that for listeners because, like I said earlier, I think it's a real benefit for not just physicians, but really anybody that's trying to get a hold of their personal finances and start to think like an investor themselves.
Yeah, so I've spent way too much time trying to figure this out. What are the steps to get to be a savvy investor?
Yeah,
And what I came up with in the end of this exercise is that a lot of the steps are exactly what you said. What is the mindset that you have to have? Because as doctors or surgeons, we are, it's beat into us this way of thinking
yeah,
and how to deal with risk. We try to take
right,
all the risk off the table. And as an investor, there is a certain level of risk that you have to be comfortable with. And
right.
so I describe it like this. When I walk into a patient room, I've got my doctor hat on. When I
Mm-hmm.
walk out and I go take a call for one of the businesses, I put my entrepreneur hat on.
Mm, yeah,
And I I take each one of the businesses in my head, in my mental space, I have a chessboard, and each project has its own chessboard. So I take that chessboard in my head and I put it down the table and I said, okay, what's the strategy for this particular project? And I
yeah,
start moving the pieces, right?
yeah,
And I think that that is crucial, absolutely crucial for someone who's starting this journey. So the first four steps are solely about mindset. And the
love
first
that.
one is you have to believe that you can do this
Yeah,
because without that, there's nothing, right? And
right.
people, the old adage is you believe what you believe. And that couldn't be further from the truth. You
Yeah,
can believe whatever you want to. You
yep,
just have to get around this people who believe that thing, right?
that's right.
So if you
Yeah,
want to be an investor, get around incredible investors. And by the, couple weeks in, you're not going to remember that you didn't believe that you could do this,
absolutely.
right?
The community is
And
so
so
important to support that mindset. Yeah,
it is so important. And then halfway through our framework, we get to the pinnacle where is, all right, now I've been through this mindset shift where now I'm starting to think like an investor, not like a
yeah,
consumer.
right.
Now I'm thinking about world problems
Mm,
and how to solve them. Instead of thinking I want to buy this car, I'm thinking, how can I make it better? How can
right.
I provide value to the environment and or whatever your cause is. And then the next five steps are the same steps you would get in any other framework. It's doing the due diligence,
Yeah,
figure out your risk profile, fill up the buckets, how much percentage of this, how much percentage of that, get your network in order, find the best teachers, all those sorts of
yeah.
things. But none of this happens without the right frame of mind.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I'll push back a little bit on you. You go into surgery with a patient, you know, you and that patient accept that there is a risk, as soon as begin that procedure and do that. And some of those risks you don't know based on the patient's, specific physiology and those sorts of things. So I'd say that as a physician, especially a surgeon, like you are comfortable with that risk, but you've prepared yourself to accept it. Um, and so I think it's interesting you look at that because you're almost like, well, there's no risk, but there is you have accepted a certain level of risk as the patient has going in there, um, which is a good. I think that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly true what you just said. The difference, I think, is as a surgeon or a doctor for that matter, we're trying to do whatever we can to take the risk off the table, right?
Understood. Yeah, that makes great sense. Yeah,
Yeah. And then as an investor, you're like, all right, there is risk here, but there's also more reward for the more risk that I take. And
that makes good
eh,
sense. Yeah,
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 everybody has a high risk tolerance until the
yeah.
deal goes bad, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah,
you have to, as an investor, get down in your core and understand what your comfort level is.
absolutely.
And, to me, that's imperative.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Excellent point. Yeah, you're not going to do like another procedure for some perceived benefit to a patient where you're trying to address an acute issue,
Yeah.
which is very different. One of the things is as I taught my sales reps and the teams, we would look at a lot at different personality profiles, and one of the big things that I always observed was that physicians really always they are you familiar with DISC? The DISC
Yep.
personality yeah. Physicians seem to always, even if they weren't predisposed to it, they were trained to look through that C, that highly analytical perspective. You have to read clinical data, you have to go through that. I think it can be very beneficial, for an investor to look through that. What are some things that you've seen working with physicians, Ryan, that from a physician's perspective holds them back as an investor, and then some things that they can say, oh, that's a big benefit um, to me as an investor going forward.
So let me start with the upside,
Yeah,
the skill sets that you develop that are very integral in the life of an investor. And one of them is doing what you do in high stress levels, right? So
yeah,
um, you're dealing with people who are at probably the lowest point in their life a lot of the time.
yeah, yeah,
They're not happy, and that translates into them not being happy with you.
yeah,
And you're very keen to be able to deal with those situations. Investing is the same in my mind. I've never seen a deal that didn't have some element of going sideways at some point,
right.
and you're able to deal with that part. Now, on the flip side, step number two is investigate. And I believe that as especially surgeons and probably physicians as well, don't get investments from the 30,000-foot view enough,
Hmm.
especially as a limited partner.
Yeah.
I believe that when we're in a patient room, we're focused on one person,
Hmm.
one problem, and very detail oriented to get to the bottom of that problem
Yeah. By necessity. Yeah.
by necessity.
Yeah.
And so when you have that other hat on, you're sitting in the 737 at 30,000 feet looking down on the investment. And in your mind's eye, everybody has one. There's a camera, and you can put that camera wherever you want, right? So when I'm doing due diligence, I'm up here. When I'm making the decision, I want to be on the hill right beside the army that I'm directing. So
Yeah.
the captain of the ship or whomever, I want to be there, but I want to be slightly above so I can see everything that's in front of me to be able
Yeah.
to make the decision. So we have the diligence, the decision making, and then we have what's on the ground, which is the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
And so when I am building businesses, I use that framework and I think, okay, I want my team to have the person at the top, whoever that may be, their head up and out. And as we go down, I want their head down and in the business. It's not about
Love it.
subordination, right? It's
Yeah.
about
No,
who's dealing with the day to day.
that's right.
And so I think that doctors have a big problem with that.
Mm.
And it translates into their business if they're a business owner as well. And the perspective in the mind's camera needs to be put up here.
Yeah. No, that's a great way. And it's like any individual producer that's out there, right? Whether you're a physician or you're a successful, like sales rep or individual producer that then moves into more of a management or leadership role. Very, very different skill sets, especially when you're dealing with a team, and hopefully your team has a different skill set than you,
Right.
right person in the right spot. But yeah, you got to learn a different skill set and do that. So is that something you help physicians with as well, or is that something you're just using in your own businesses that are out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the Medicine and Money show, we're really
Yeah.
focused on teaching how folks how to be a good limited partner.
Yeah.
but it translates so well into their day-to-day business that I think that to build up that skill set makes their prime business much better as well.
Even
So
better. Yeah.
the short answer is
Yeah.
I think we teach both.
Yeah. No, I love it. And it is right. You have your personal financial business perspective. Most physicians are out there, whether they're, even if you're an employee, if you understand, the goals of the practice or the healthcare system that you work for and the economics behind it, then you can understand, the drivers of those decisions that occur and lean in to those areas that can be, more productive, for the system that you're working for. It's very similar, right? It's very applicable from one to the next.
The principles are exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. You got a great podcast. I'll say that because I'm a guest on it. But how long have you been doing the podcast?
So it's been on and off. We took a
Yeah,
little sabbatical there from it for a little while. We were
yeah,
hard and heavy last year, and now
yeah.
we're hitting it hard and heavy again. I took a
Awesome.
step back to put the frameworks around it and really
Yeah,
wanted to understand what problem do I solve?
yeah,
What is the cause of that problem?
yeah,
And what is my uniqueness to the problem?
yeah.
And now that we got that sorted out, man, we're ready to go.
Love it. Love it. And you got a book coming out next year, and I'm excited because we're going to have you back on the show when the book comes out to really dive in. Have you written a book before? Is this your first?
First endeavor.
Yeah, wonderful. What was the driver behind that?
I think that going through this process, if I did do it, it would be selfish
Yeah,
because I think it's so powerful that the world needs to know.
yeah, yeah. When I've heard that from so many people, I've got a friend who helps authors, write their first book and do that. And he says, "Hey, you've got a story, and the world deserves to hear it." And I thought it was fun writing when I wrote my first book. Um, it helps clarify things. It really helps you. You have to be introspective. You have to think about how other people are going to see it. And it's surprising how different people relate to that journey along the way and see those things. The other thing that was interesting to me was it helps you kind of, reflect back on how your experiences shaped your current situation that you're in. Have you gone through something similar?
Oh, 1000%.
Yeah.
To me, my personal brand is not about me. It's about who I'm talking to. And that person is me back in 2016, starting this journey.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really have anything to do with me at all. It's how did I get to where I am today? And how do I push this forward and make it even better on a daily basis? And
Yeah.
so everybody talks about, especially in the doctor world, this doctor wants to get a lot of money and it's all about, the dollars and that sort of thing. They couldn't be further from the truth.
Mm.
This is about building a foundation and a way to protect your family and your loved ones and put this sort of cocoon around them and be
Yeah.
able to take care of problems that come up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think, that is the one thing, look, there's good doctors, there's bad doctors, there's bad actors all over the place. We can point to a bad mechanic or somebody like that, but my experience was overwhelming that the physicians I worked with they cared so much about their patients. It's almost an altruistic endeavor to go into medicine in a lot of ways. And you have to have, to me, you seem to have that perspective. Obviously, there's greedy doctors and greedy businessmen and athletes, all kinds of different things out there. But I don't know. That's my perspective. Maybe I'm biased because I spent so much time with friends and other people
Sure.
over the years. But and I think that serves an investor well as you go in and do that. But you're so much more than an investor now. Ryan, you've got your hands in several other things. You care to share some of the cool stuff that you're working on outside of, the real estate and the investment space?
Sure. As I kind of alluded to a little bit, my
Yeah.
journey started in business school. And as I
Yeah.
was coming out, I thought to myself, I don't want this to be one of those things that I do and then I put it on the shelf and never think about it again.
Yeah.
So I did started a whole bunch of projects. It wasn't intentional, but I would get to a certain point in the project and then it would have to go to one of the different consultants and it would be there for a while. And so I just kind of got bored. And so the first one was the assisted living home,
Yeah.
where we made every mistake in the book. And but we overcame the struggles. And I started realizing that there is a way to think about these things and to be a good leader and to be a good business person, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand like how to think about it, how to make those decisions, how to build teams, all those sorts of things. And I really liked it. And so after that, we made a smell training company where we decided, okay, there is a way to try to get people smell back after they have some sort of insult to the cranial nerve that deals with smell.
Yeah.
And so we put that together. And then that translated into our second project on that front where we made a reflux medicine that just came to market, I guess about 3 months ago and went through all the patent processes. It's backed by 5 patents or whatever. And now it's slowly starting to take off. And
Yeah.
then as an ENT, I decided, well, you know what? I want to take bone hearing aids to a different level. And so we started on that project, and that's slowly coming to fruition. So we
I'm
have,
excited to see that. That sounds, yeah, very cool technology you guys are working on there. Yeah.
yeah. And, my wife said that she was going to cut off one of my body parts if I started another company. And
Which
so
one? That's the key.
I,
Like.
I don't want to know. I didn't ask. So I'm forbidden. But, there's enough to keep us busy and
Yeah.
you know, we'll keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm excited to see a lot of these projects come to fruition. The smell, my smell hasn't been the same since COVID, so I'm actually going to take a look at that. So
Yeah.
I was as I listened, I couldn't help but laugh a little bit. You pick probably the worst time for assisted living in 2020, but probably the one
Yeah.
of the best times for the smell training during
Yeah.
COVID. So it's good. That's a lesson in diversification. Um, I would love for you to share a little bit about how the audience can get in touch with you through your podcast, stay on a list if they want to see your book, and also if they want to learn more about your Liftoff Now system for helping them be better investors.
Yeah, probably the best way to get to know about what the platform's about, the content, what we discuss is medmoneyshow.com. It's our website and sort of everything kind of stems off from there. You can find the YouTube videos. We're about to launch the Apple podcast, so all of those will be on there. There
Awesome.
is a membership button where you can get on the WhatsApp group. We welcome all comers. You don't have to be a physician or a medical provider. And we bounce ideas off of each other. We have daily market updates. And, if you have a question about how to find this or that, we're happy to give our input. We call it our board of advisors, which is not the case because we don't advise people to do anything. But I feel like if I'm going to go on this journey and learn every day, let's build the best community on the planet and let everybody involved. And you can teach me and I can give you my input. It sounds like a win-win to me.
Yeah, it's a mastermind, a brain trust and mastermind to do that. And I'm checking it
Yeah,
out right now here. So we'll put all this in the show notes as well. Um, Anything else before we wrap up here today, Dr. Smolarz?
I don't think so, but I will leave your audience with this. As you go, if you decide that this is the way of life that you want it to be, really on a daily basis, figure out when you look at a problem, say, I want to think about this as an investor.
Yeah.
And really the sort of magic happens there because to me, it is a different way of thinking.
Absolutely. Yeah. As you said in the beginning of the show, begin with mindset. And if you're listening today, hopefully you can have a similar moment where you're out floating among the waves as you were doing that day, Ryan, and begin your journey. And hopefully the resources we provided here and this can help you on your way. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.